Hey everybody, welcome to Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. My name is Reed with Best Made Videos. We are a wedding videography company based out of West Seattle, Washington. And today I'm joined by Mikaela Carnes of Sugar and Spice Events. And I was thinking kind of when you were on your way over here, like, because we met probably 6 months ago at the Black Diamond Gardens event.
Oh yeah.
But then we found out we kind of do Wedding Network Seattle together, and we've kind of discovered all these other connections, kind of since we met, but that we kind of were in the same circle already. So, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and what you do.
All right. So my name is Mikaela Carnes, and I am the owner of Sugar and Spice Events. It is a wedding planning business. I do predominantly day of coordination, but yeah, I love the wedding business, and I just find weddings to be a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, and then you're also involved in Wedding Network, right? Seattle, and helping to run kind of some of that stuff. I mean, that obviously is another way for you to network and kind of help do events and things. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Oh yeah. So I am the current director of Wedding Network Seattle, and Wedding Network Seattle is really just a networking group of wedding professionals. We get together once a month. We're a good mix of planners, florists, DJs, videographers. We just get together and kind of coordinate some sort of educational topic and let some wedding vendors feature their great, like we just had one with Casper's, and Casper's was able to showcase their food. It was so delicious. CB Bell was there. He took headshots. Like, it just gives a chance for wedding vendors to really show off to other wedding vendors what they can do.
Oh, I think it's great. I don't go to as many as I should, but we did the video at the parties on the terrace. And I mean, it's such a fun way to kind of see people that you wouldn't, like this is a great way to interact with people, like vendors like yourself outside. It's just so hard when you're like working a wedding and you want to be working, but then really chatting and getting to know people. So I think it's a great way to kind of get to connect with people.
Yeah, I agree. I think all of us have made some great connections from it.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate you coming on. I kind of put the bat signal out last week. We had a guest fall through, and I said, I got to get somebody on, and I've been bugging you since the Black Diamond Gardens event. And so thank you so much for coming on. What is it about, weddings and events and things? I know you've worked, kind of corporate events and stuff in the past. Like, what is it about the wedding world that really excites you?
Oh, I think it's just the creativity and, there's the creativity, the artistic part of it, that, it's a experience of a lifetime. A lot of people will not have this type of wedding again. And I think that it really allows brides and grooms to kind of create this fantasy. I do get kind of caught up in the fantasy, and there's like the girl that was raised on Tom Hanks movies. So but yeah, weddings are just great. And I have a very logistical mindset, and I'm also really creative. So it kind of makes a natural choice to kind of work more in weddings.
So talk about that. How did you kind of get involved in weddings to begin with? Like you said, I mean, growing up, were you thinking about, I don't know if a lot of people are thinking like, I'm going to be a wedding planner. Like, how did you kind of find your way into this?
So when I first graduated from college, I was a social worker, and I was not making ends meet, and I had an opportunity to pick up some catering gigs. And so I did that. I started with 12 Baskets Catering as just a server for them, and I really enjoyed building buffets. And just kind of like this controlled chaos behind the scenes. I just really kind of fell into the adrenaline that you get from putting on an event to being done, and the satisfaction of it being over and having people say like, good job, just that simple cycle.
That's awesome. I was just thinking in the back of my head, because I'm kind of the same way, with video and like tomorrow I got to go do corporate stuff. And, there is this element of like control, where you got to make everything perfect. And, what do we have the ability to control and what we don't? And like my partner Matt's wedding yesterday, we got done. I was done at 6. We were earlier. We were like at 10 to 6. And I had just gotten home, and he calls me, which is bad, right? Like normally, like he'll text me and he goes, so the bride is in an ambulance. She is passed out. The dehydration from the day totally got stressed. And I was like, oh my God. And then, and he's trying to figure out like, how do we wait. And obviously she was okay. And then they kind of went on and did the dancing and stuff. But, it was a little bit of chaos. And, he's trying to figure out like, well, how do we, what do we do here? And I'm like, well, ultimately it's still their day, right? You're going to capture it and do it. But it is like that element of like kind of getting that chaos. But then like I emailed her today and she's like, oh yeah, it's great. Like I, felt really kind of ill for a little bit, but it's all good. Like we had a great day. And I'm like, man,
The element of surprise, it'll always throw you, but like when you make it through, you just feel good.
Yeah, right. And it's, then it's done and then it's kind of on to the next one. So, but I was, I couldn't believe it. I was,
I'm happy to hear she was okay. That's,
Yeah, well, and because they were young, they're under 21. I mean, it was a dry wedding. So I knew that like, when you called me, I'm like, well, obviously it's not like, they passed out or whatever, it was just like the excitement and stress and whatever. But, so you said you were a social worker out of college.
Yeah.
So what did you go to school for? What did you want to do?
Oh, I got a degree in sociology and I really fell in love with the criminal justice system. And I think I was like that typical college kid that graduated with the degree in sociology, wanting to save the world. And it ends up, it's not so simple. And so I kind of got beat up right out the bat. So yeah, I did that for like a year. Yeah. And then I actually ended up being a merchant marine for 10 years.
Well, that's exciting. Talk about that.
So yeah, this is kind of like an interesting, it explains a little bit of my personality too.
It's all interesting.
So I catered. I ended up going catering back with 12 Baskets. And I met someone that said, hey, you can go do this in Alaska on a cruise ship. I can help you out. And so that turned into me going and working on small ships in Southeast Alaska. And then I ended up making my way onto the deck and I was a deckhand. And then from there, I got my 100-ton master's license. I spent probably most of my 20s in Southeast Alaska working on boats in the summer. And in the winter, we'd go to Mexico and do like Baja. It was a lot of fun. I'd get off the boat. I'd have a wad of cash in my pocket. I could go travel, do whatever, just have some fun. And then I decided to go a little bit more serious with Merchant Marine. And I got what's called an AB ticket, which is basically I am a licensed deckhand. I had to prove that I could steer a ship. I had to prove I could tie the knots. I had to, I was the person when we would go into port, I was the person that actually dropped the anchor. Like that's what an AB does. They're the one that handles the lines when you pull into port. So I went and I did that for a large oil company for about 2 years. And then one day the cook walked off the boat and they were like, Mikaela, you know how to cook. Can you cook dinner? And I knew that they would pay for me to go to culinary school if I worked in the galley. So I took the job. I ran the interior of an oil tanker for about 3 years. And they helped pay for me to go to a couple culinary programs. Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Was it tough as a female? I imagine that boats right? Is it a pretty male dominated?
Super male dominated. Yeah, very male dominated.
So do you feel like, now obviously being a planner and coordinator, kind of having to run stuff, do you feel like you kind of, I don't know, got toughened up or kind of figured out stuff, kind of having to work through that?
Oh, I mean, I've always kind of been tough, but there's a reason. Sugar and spice. It definitely probably made me a little tough. And then I had to get into the wedding industry and soften up a little.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So then what finally pulled you out of the Merchant Marines and all that? You were just kind of done with the sea life or?
Yeah, I was doing 90 days at a time. And when I first started cooking, I was putting a lot of my emotion and my thought into the food I was making. And I just thought it was great. And then after doing it for so many years, 3 years, I started realizing it was taken for granted and I just kind of got burnt out on it. And not only was it just hard to have romantic relationships, but it was also hard to just maintain friendships because when you're gone for 90 days at a time, a lot changes.
Well, and you're totally out of communication, right? I mean,
yeah, nowadays, I had internet and I was a lot of times going up and down the West Coast, so I wouldn't be too long without communication, but I also didn't have anything to communicate. Yep, we left port. We got back in port.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, and if you're in the kitchen a lot, right, it's got to be kind of a little monotonous after a while, right? After month 2 or 3, and you're doing it every day.
It's the same steel wall.
So I mean, obviously, I'm envisioning a little more rugged lifestyle, right, on the boat and what was it like then going into weddings and events and stuff? I mean, how did you even make that leap?
Oh, well, I had my catering background, and so I would get off the boat and I would go travel. And so one of my last big trips that I did is I did a big trip in Italy, and I spent a lot of money. And I got back to Seattle, and the Nordstrom anniversary sale was going on, and I've worked there on and off. So I went, and I just really kind of fell in love with the fashion part of it, and I knew I wanted to change it up. So that was kind of my transition jobs. I was a stylist at Nordstrom for a bit. And then the Scansonia is, they happen to be hiring someone, and anyone that knows what the Scansonia is, it's a wooden boat that has events.
That's
and
awesome.
It was like a perfect transition for me. I don't know. Yeah, I learned a lot, and we went through so many weddings. In the 2 years I was there, it was probably like 275 weddings that I was somehow a part of.
So what did you got brought on there as? Like a multi-purpose or what?
I was operations manager, but then as part of your package, you would get a day of coordinator. So I would be the one that would coordinate and manage the timeline for the bride and groom, and also the catering staff.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
so that
definitely.
obviously kind of got you into that. And so then from that, then you decided to kind of launch and do your own thing, or?
Yeah. I've always known that I had like that little bit of, I need to be in complete control. So I always knew I was going to end up doing my own thing. And I've always thought that it was going to be a catering company, but low overhead with event planning. Catering, it's a lot of overhead. So I decided to just make the leap with planning. Yeah.
And did you ever have family entrepreneurs, anything? I mean, anything of friends, whatever. I mean, I always ask when people are like, well, I'm going to make the leap to do that. Like my dad kind of had his own business. So there's at least was it like a new foreign thing for you, or? I mean, obviously you'd be kind of making your way, for a lot of your life, but it's just the next step to kind of form that and go.
Yeah, I think so. My dad's a retired Navy pilot, and my mom worked in real estate. So yeah, I guess there's a little bit of that entrepreneurial with real estate.
Was there challenges for you in starting? I mean, I know that every kind of small business, when they try to figure out like what's going on, like was it?
Oh, so here's something that wedding entrepreneurs specifically are all artists. So we all have these really great ideas and these visions. And then all of a sudden you realize like, oh, it's a business. And I would say just that business part of it with like keeping track of your finances, keeping organized. Figuring out, there's all these apps, trying to figure out the ones that work for you. I would say, yeah, just the business, running your own business is a different world for me.
Yeah, well, and like you said, the artist thing. I mean, I just today on Facebook, I'm in the videographer group, and the guy posted, he said, hey, we have a wedding coming up, and the bride is shorter. And he said, I'm worried when everybody stands, when she comes down the aisle, that the jib arm I have set up isn't gonna, it's like a sweeping camera kind of, you think about these are like really high-end people, but it's like, that sweeping Michael Bay, like action shot. And he's like, I'm worried that they're not going to be able to see her because the ego. So I'm wondering, like, do you think I could ask everybody to stay seated when the bride came down the aisle? It's like, God, that's the perfect example of like an artist letting the artistry get in the way of, because everyone on the post is like, no, you dummy. Like,
no,
you can't
do that.
You need to just figure out something else to do than to have it, take away from that. But it was just funny because I hear all the time, artists and the difference between like business and like, that's a perfect example. Like here's someone that totally got carried away with trying to be an artist and then think about like anybody else.
I know. And I think of that a lot with communication with other vendors. It's like, yep, sometimes it takes a while because like we're just a bunch of artists. I
know this time of year when it's like getting timelines back and you're like, I don't know. That's like 6 weeks away. I'll look at that later. It's tough. What was it like? I mean, so it seems like you kind of like slowly transitioned into weddings, for the catering, but like, was it just like, for me, like the wedding thing was like just a totally foreign concept when I like got into it. Like, I hadn't been to a lot of weddings. Like I just didn't even, I mean, did you feel like I would totally felt like a fish out of water. Like, were you kind of able to find your way better than I did, or?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have been a bridesmaid 6 times. So, and that was before I started my own business. And then just through catering. And like, again, I've always just loved like watching movies growing up with the bride and just the dresses. And I've always been fascinated by the dresses. But yeah, it's kind of natural for me.
So now that you're, sugar and spice events, why don't you talk about kind of the overall kind of what you offer and kind of what people come to you to get, kind of the services that you offer?
Okay. So I do full wedding planning. However, I think I am probably doing mostly day of coordination at this point. I have a couple partial planning packages, but I predominantly just work with brides and grooms to come on board and help them in the final stretch of their wedding. I help them go through and, for lack of a better word, audit their wedding. I kind of go through and I start ironing things out and looking at red flags, at trying to explain consequences. And, ultimately it is the bride and groom's day, and whatever they want is whatever they're going to get. But I do like to sit down and give like my experience through my past weddings, give that experience to them.
Yeah, it's a tough balance. Our wedding Saturday, it was good, but there was decisions that were made. Certain decisions are made because of other decisions, and then ultimately it ended up like, I think, we started at the wrong side and worked backwards trying to figure out stuff. And it just ended up, the reception just was a little kind of more jumbled than it needed to be. And I was like, someone needed to like get in there, like you said, and kind of audit it or figure out like, well, what are we going to do here to make it a little bit more, it was tough. So I totally know. And I just, God, I wish anything that like someone could have like figured this out for them, because we're just trying to kind of capture and kind of go with it,
Yeah. But I think just having the experience of like, okay, it's really great that you want to have a dance party for 5 hours. And right now you think that all of your friends are going to stay and dance with you for 5 hours. But I'm here to tell you that, sorry, like you got 2 hours, maybe 3 anyway. It depends. But, I think just being able to tell couples like what they can realistically expect, because there's nothing worse than having a bride upset at the end of the day because her vision didn't come the way she was hoping it for.
Oh, I know. And I was talking with Dorothy about that too, because we had, similar and different, both our weddings this weekend. And it was like, these, expectations, and, the one they thought it was going to go till 7 and kind of at 5 o'clock, we're wrapping up 5, 6. And then, the other one and just the guy. And so you're just like, it's tough because they only kind of get the one go around. And so you're trying to figure out like, what's the best way to do it, but you don't want to tell them like, this isn't going to work, but I guess that's where the planner, you're a little bit more, you can play bad guy, right? Or if you need to, or not,
I specifically this summer, I've been told from a few couples that I have been hired simply because I was the first one to say no. Which, I mean, I don't want to be that person, but again, I always come back to it is the bride and groom's day, but I am going to tell you, like, I don't think that's a good idea. Or if you do that, this is what's going to happen.
But do you feel like I would think that you would get good response. Do you get good response to that?
I think so. There's one couple that I had talked to at one point in time, and he was very set on his vision, and I let him know kind of my reality and what I saw. Anyway, it didn't work out. But by the time I got done meeting with them, I realized that like it wasn't going to work out anyway.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to learn that. And we talk a lot about that with vendors too all the time is, not every couple or every event is your event. And I just had a thing today. I had to email somebody back and say, this isn't going to work. This isn't what we had talked about yesterday. And, I don't like to do that. But, I said, this is not what, we talked about. It is totally different than what we talked about yesterday. And we're going to need to figure it out. So.
Oh, I agree. I always offer a complimentary coffee, wine, whatever, just to sit down. Because, even if I'm only doing day of coordination, it can sometimes be like a 6-month relationship. And I don't want you to be in a relationship that you resent. And I don't want to be in a relationship with a bride or groom that I'm starting to resent, because then it's no fun on the day of for anyone.
So what kind of couples do you like to work with that you find are attracted to you and that you feel like you gel with? Is it, the young working professional? Is it people that have a big grand vision? Is it, like you said, more practical people that are trying to figure out like what can and we can't do?
Oh, I'm kind of trying to figure that one out right now. I do realize that I tend to work with a lot of strong women. Yeah, I feel like almost every bride that I've worked with has had a very like strong personality, and I think that part of my strong personality kind of is what attracts that. Tend to work with creatives who tend to do a little bit of DIY, but they also know to draw the line at a certain point, just out of their own capability. So, but yeah, I'm really kind of narrowing in on who my ideal bride or who I work well with. That's something I'm working on right now.
Yeah, it's tough. It's so funny. You said the strong women. Like, how many guys don't just we work with and don't know what's going on like at all? And I'm always like, come on, I see a lot where they're like, I'll ask them, so like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, how do you not know what's going on here? You've been part of this for 9 months. Like,
I have some grooms that are really that have been very active, but I definitely have a handful of grooms that I don't meet until the rehearsal.
Yeah. No, I think because Rebecca Grant did our wedding, and I bet she wishes that I would have been probably less vocal than I was. I was probably more vocal than
You're an artist.
I was like, but the timeline, I don't know about the timeline. So what do you think? Did you grow up in Seattle? Have you always been a part of the area up here?
Oh, no, I'm a Navy brat. So I was born in Florida, and then California, did a lot of elementary school in Hawaii. And then my dad retired in the Midwest, which is where my family is originally from. So then I went to high school and college in the Midwest. And then when I graduated college, I needed to be by the water, and I had come to visit a friend in Seattle. And I was like, yep, I'm just going to go there. So packed up my stuff and moved here in 2002. So
yeah. So where'd you go to school out here then?
I didn't go to, I went to school in the Midwest, Bradley University.
What was it like? Kind of, obviously Seattle's way different than the Midwest. What was it like making that transition?
Oh, I think I was too young to really notice too much. I would say that one thing I noticed right away is just like people in Seattle are very friendly, and that they would do things to accommodate you in day-to-day life, but it's really hard to get past that Seattle freeze.
Yeah. But
are you from around here?
Yeah. I grew up in Bellevue. It's funny now. Yeah. Cause most people are like, cause Kyle Lawrence, who was just on the podcast, he grew up in Oregon and moved up here. He was like, but I've been up here 30 years now. It's long enough. Cause you get this thing now where people have been here the last 5 years, and you're like, you're newbies moving here, or you're taking our jobs or something. And, you get all these Amazon people coming in. So the funny, we had one of our good friends, she works at Amazon, and all her friends, and trying to just explain to them how the city was 4 or 5 years ago. And they have no idea. It's just really funny.
I know. And in 2012, I almost bought a house, and I didn't. And every day. But it wasn't the right timing. But yeah, just Seattle's really changed. I still like it. I don't like the traffic, but I mean, whatever. We complained about the traffic in 2003 too.
Yeah. But but obviously you like working here. Do you like the wedding community? Do you obviously with doing, Wedding Network Seattle, you're meeting a lot of people, seeing a lot of venues, new venues. I mean, do you enjoy kind of that aspect of the networking part? And
I do. I like it. I mean, one thing that I don't have experience in other areas in the wedding industry, but I feel I get a lot of feedback that Seattle's wedding community is much more friendly and accepting than a lot of other communities. I know some of the other Wedding Network chapters. It used to be Wedding Network USA. It's now Wedding Network Seattle. But other chapters, they had difficulties getting other vendors to hop on board. They didn't see the point of the networking and being part of this community to help raise everyone up. So I think we're very fortunate in Seattle to have that community here.
Oh, I totally agree. We did Wedding MBA, was it 2 or 3 years ago? And I went, and some guy was talking about how, it's the key to my thing is he's like, I would just talk to the other vendors at my thing. And I'm like, in Seattle, man, bullshit with everybody. I talk and, give cards or talk or whatever and just chit chat and but that was like his big revolutionary thing, was like, we got to make sure you like talk to people. And I was like, well, thanks, buddy. Like, I'm glad that but I do think it's different where I think Seattle, it's not, because I hear horror stories about, photo, video, getting along in other markets and planners or, the venues just totally shutting down everything and saying like, this is how it's going and, paying to play and all sorts of weird, what's it called where you like pay when someone books you or like the kickbacks and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I hear all this weird stuff everywhere else.
Yeah. I think that it's also, for me, it was kind of weird though with Seattle, with how welcoming and accepting. It was like, hold on, I'm trying to come into your world. And anyway, I had to get used to it. I had to finally give into it. Like, oh, like we're all separate, but we're together. And it's like, now that I've given into it, it's good. And I think being part of Wedding Network Seattle has really helped with that and really just wanting I lift everyone up.
Oh, I totally agree. And I mean, like I just worked with a photo video guy a couple weeks ago and like, he mostly does video, but he was doing photo, we're talking and now he's asking me if I know anybody because he needs somebody to work with him. And you build these, and I remember probably years ago when I used to see him post and stuff and I'm like, I hate Travis. Like he's, it's like competitive, but it's not, right? And you meet people and then you're like.
The DJs in Seattle, they have such a tight-knit group, man. Like they put a call out, and they get response. Anyway, I'm amazed by the DJs in Seattle. I'd like to think that the wedding planners can get there at some point because someone has to organize it. I think that's really what it comes down to. But just if someone needs something, a piece of equipment, like the bat signal, as you called it earlier, goes out and they take care of each other.
No, I think it would be good. I think but it's tough, when people are starting out. I think, after you've been doing it a while, you get a little more comfortable where I think people starting out, you are a little more defensive or you're trying to it's different. Do you feel like having worked like at a venue specifically now and then being a planner, does that help you kind of like look at other spaces for people and figure out like what's going to work or kind of, help people kind of plan stuff that way? Where you kind of came from the venue side?
Yeah, I come from a lot of different sides too, though. So
you do?
Yeah. Well, because the venue manager, but then also I worked with Urban Feast Catering as a lead for a few years, server and lead. So I have the catering experience. And then I worked for Court Party Rental, just kind of part-time. So I've also helped florists on the weekends when I'm not doing weddings. Sometimes I go in. So I feel like I really have the ability to see so many vendors' perspective. I don't know. Do you need someone to carry your gear sometime?
Yeah,
I'm always in the hustle.
That's funny, man. No, but I think that's interesting because I do, and I've talked a lot on this podcast where, the stuff that you did in the past, it's like the guy on Heroes that would like get the powers when he would, do you ever watch that show? And
yes, I used to love that show.
He would absorb, it was the guy that was on Peter Petrelli, that he's on This Is Us now, or Milo.
Oh, yes,
Milo, and he got burned up, or I don't watch the show.
He was the good guy on Heroes.
Yeah, and he the other, so there was Skylar like would absorb all the powers. Anyway, but I feel like as a wedding vendor, you are all this stuff. Like if you were an accountant that became a florist, that is going to make you a different florist than someone that. So I mean, it's fascinating to me to hear your story, right, and on kind of all the different lives you've touched kind of along the way to figure it out.
Yeah. It's funny. A friend of mine, we constantly have an argument about like, I'm the captain, you're the first mate. No, and just assigning. But I think using that analogy of just my background with shipping and being like, I like to be in the trenches. I like to have my hands dirty. Yeah. All of that kind of coming into the wedding.
So what is it about kind of weddings? I hear from a lot of people like, that are not in the industry, it's the same thing a lot, or it's kind of rinse and repeat. Like, what is it about it that keeps you motivated and keep, kind of expanding and finding new clients and, working on your craft?
Oh, I think it's just like the challenge of there's always problem solving. I can't think of the things that come up because it just happens, but I'm constantly answering questions and having to come up, like shoot from the hip on the day of a wedding with stuff, trying to just figure out little things. Like all of a sudden we need AA batteries. Oh, of course I only have AAA, like, just those little things that come up. It is an adrenaline chase, I would say, because just, especially I think everyone goes through it, but when everyone's kind of depending on you to take them through the day, and just when you finally get to the point where the bride and groom are on the dance floor and things are okay and the cake is cut and like no one has cried at this point.
Or ended up in the back of an ambulance.
Yeah. Like you get a little bit of a sense, and then things calm down, and, getting those thank yous at the end of the night from mom and dad and bride and groom. And, they're like, oh, I couldn't have done it without you. And it's like, oh, you probably could have, but it went a little better because of me.
No, and I've talked with planners on the podcast a lot, and I say that I've always said wedding planning is the hardest service of any to sell and market to people because, like you said, yeah, people get married all the time, and it's good or bad, or it could be better, could be worse. But like a successful planner, you don't know. It's like you're the Kaiser Soze and then you disappear, and like it wasn't like you were there, and it's a really hard, because Angela with Blue Wings has been on the podcast, and we sat at a really terrible wedding show for hours and talked about it. And I was like, I don't know how you market to people as a wedding planner, because everybody thinks they can do it themselves. And the one, like I have a video, we're still photographers and shit now, we're losing, and people, I can do, but like, especially planning, I can do it myself. I don't need somebody.
But I think that, I do feel like planning, because again, there's, what do you have to really invest in it? I think that, and I've been the coordinator for my best friend's wedding, and I'm so grateful I did it. Like, I loved it. I loved every moment, but I have never been so beat. I had like eggs Benedict delivered to me the next day. Like, I've never had breakfast delivered. Anyway, I have never been so exhausted as the day after my best friend's wedding. And most of my weddings, I take 30,000 steps on a regular. Like,
you got to make sure it's all taken care of.
And I'm grateful for that. But I think that if you're going to depend on someone to do that, you should realize what you're putting on them, that they are not going to be a part of your wedding. They are going to be running your wedding. So, but I think all of us vendors deal with that. Like florists, I see it all the time, that they think they're going to go to the market and they're going to take care of the flowers. I'm trying, like DJs, now that everyone has an iPod, they think that they can make a playlist on Spotify. Yeah.
Oh, yesterday our reception was, they didn't have a DJ, and it was apparent, and it's tough. It's tough to figure out like how to and they had someone emceeing and running the speakers, but it's hard to, kind of MC, let people know what's happening and what's going on and doing whatever, and you think, you think you can, and it's just hard, and you don't know till afterward.
And I think a lot of times people think that as the planner, I'll MC their wedding. I'm like, no. I'm a lot of things, but I am not that personality.
Well, you have too much other stuff to do too. You don't have time to stand up there and do that. I don't think people, you're just with your vendors all day, as the planner and the photo. That's like us. We don't meet with most of our couples. I always offer it, but I'm like, we're going to be there all day, the whole time, And, we're fine. And, we have the reviews and stuff, and people know, but I think they, same with the planner, underestimate like the 80,000 times they're going to talk to you during that day, and all the questions they're going to have and stuff, what I mean?
Yeah. I think that people underestimate, just with trying to bring in a friend, especially like moms that think that they can coordinate. There's also that emotional aspect. Like, I don't want to underplay that. Like, I say this but it's your special day is my everyday, right? Like, caterers are 5 minutes late. What's new? Like, that's not going to faze me. Caterers are an hour late. Now we're going to talk and we're going to figure this out. But like, I have no emotion in the day, so I'm not going to react the way someone else, and I'm not going to take that to you, because you don't need to know that right now. I know everything's going to be fine.
No, and I agree. And it's not like you said, it's probably not the best way to like phrase it, but I feel the same way. I totally agree with that. That like, when you do it every weekend and it's just different than, we're going to hire my buddy to come film, and he's never done this before, and he's really stressed and doesn't know. And it's like, we don't really get stressed because you do it all, it's your life.
Yeah.
What is that? Your special day is my everyday. I love that. That's great. You should like slogan that.
I know I need to put it on my website, but then I'm worried that someone's going to think I'm like underplaying it. I'm like, I'm not underplaying your day.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of worse slogans. What do you wish that more people knew about you, what do you wish people knew more about you? You said that, you wanted to kind of get your personality more out there, right? People do hire the planners, not only for the service, well, vendors in general, not only for the service, but I believe for the personality. That's why we have this podcast. That's why we get to know people. So what do you wish more people knew about? And that could be how you work. It could be what you do. It could be something about, that you wish more people asked about wedding planning. And I know that's a tough question.
Oh, that is tough. I would say like some goals for me are to allow myself to be more creative. And I would really, because I work and I also have a job that helps support my bills and stuff. Like weddings are my passion, but like I have to have health insurance. So, so I'm constantly working, and I realize that I have not given my creative gene, like I haven't been scratching that creative bug. And I would really like to be able to work some styled shoots in, get some brides and grooms that are open to doing some creative planning with me, and really just being able to like work that part of my brain again. So that's a goal, I think, for going into my 2020 season and through the winter, like, put in all those things that we're going to take care of in the winter.
I love the winter. Well, I hate the winter and I love the winter because I do like there's always a lot of projects and stuff. Mm-hmm. But do you feel like you're still, I feel like I'm always trying to kind of refine and stuff. Do you feel like you're still, trying to get, tweak things and get things better?
Oh, yes, definitely. Just this past weekend, I let loose on communicating with vendors up into, just because it's August and I wasn't as diligent about it. And there was definitely some things I missed. And the bride and groom, they won't know the difference, but like I know those things and I carry them with me. And so thinking about, okay, refining processes for next year to make sure that, I'm doing the things that I need to do, and, just kind of creating more of a protocol for myself that I have to be more held accountable for. Oh, that's so business sounding.
No, it's so hard. I had a call on Saturday for the wedding Sunday, and it was the coordinator, asking, hey, I was like, hey, I want to make sure you're still coming. And I was like, well, I've been talking with the bride for weeks, and, I've been talking with the photographer, but like, I guess, should I have made that check-in? I don't know. Right. Like, and I'm like I'm thinking they're like, okay, well, do I need to start, normally I'm waiting to hear from whoever, like I talk to bride, groom and photographer, but do I need to start messaging the planners? Like, okay. Right. I don't know. You're trying to figure out like the best way to handle it. Cause I totally felt like, man, maybe I did drop the ball on that, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's probably all of us, but I know for me, I try not to inundate all the vendors with all the versions of the timeline that are going to come out. And so about a week before the event, though, I'll send out the email. And sometimes in August, it'll be the Monday before the event, because really we can't see past our nose. And just like, here's this and tell me what you need. And yeah. Let's hope it goes okay, because we have 4 days. If it doesn't, no, it's going to be fine.
Yeah, my biggest critique for planners is for the ones that do send version 1, 2, which is fine. Highlight what changed. Highlight it.
Oh, no, yeah.
Because I'll get a 6-page timeline, and then I'll be like with the magnifying glass trying to figure out, okay, well, what's different from this version, and just highlight it. If it's the guest count changed from 152 to 154, just highlight that. That's fine. Yeah. Because I'm like, I'll spend an hour like, okay, well, now what the hell's changing here? But no, I know what you mean. So besides the world of weddings, I'm perusing your site, and it's, talking about like other events and stuff that you work on as well, right? Mm-hmm. So do you want to talk about kind of expand on any of the other services? Oh,
I haven't. I've really gotten kind of in the wedding niche, but I'm open to doing other events. I worked on a few auctions, kind of just volunteering to be coordinators for auctions, and it's helped me learn a lot about those processes. but anyway.
Also, yeah, I think that's right.
But I think I really zeroed in on weddings, but I'm always open to, man, if I could do a baby shower, just a fun baby shower, something light, or, even like a birthday party, corporate picnic, those, I don't know. It's all really, it's not the same thing, but it is the same thing.
No, I love doing the bounce back and forth between, cause I think like the wedding stuff sharpens my corporate, right? And then because tomorrow we got to do all these sit down interviews and stuff. And I'm like, I can control everything tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. So what am I going to do versus like yesterday? Like I can't control anything with lighting or the weather. But then, you try to figure out the stuff that you do when it's a little more chaotic. Right. And then you bring it in. I don't know. I always feel like it kind of sharpens both sides.
Yeah.
So I do think it's interesting to bounce back and forth.
Well, and I think corporate, there's not the emotion. Like there's just not that. Anyway, so people are not, anyway, you need to be on your game a little bit more with corporate.
No, absolutely. So before you go, what I always ask is, and it's specific for, each vendor, like, what do you wish people knew more about, like what wedding planners do or what, why, because, video, there's a million different things for us, but like, what do you wish that, you're constantly seeing, and it could be Aunt Betty trying to coordinate and then not working, or it could be them thinking that, a day of planner, it's not going to talk to me for a year before. I mean, what is it about that that you wish that people knew about wedding planners?
Oh, I think that the thing that I would want to impart on to just couples or whatever getting married about wedding planning is that things are going to happen and you have to you can't have complete control over it, and really just find the things that are going to mean the most to you. Hire a planner because, again, we're not emotionally involved in the day. So it just frees us up. And it just, I don't know, if you went to a restaurant that didn't have a manager, what would you think? I mean, like, we're the general manager of the day as a day of coordinator. Like, you need someone that has your vision. The caterer is there for the caterer's vision. The day of coordinator is there solely as the general manager to the bride and groom. I mean, I am there to execute their vision.
I love it.
Yeah.
No, I love it because we're, like you said, and same with photo and video, right? Like I know what I'm trying to get, right?
Yeah.
And it might be a thing where we don't have time to do that, right? Mm-hmm. And you need to have somebody say, hey guys, like we got to get ready now, or we got to do this, or we got to get the family, or like yesterday she's talking to the couple, like, the coordinator, you guys got to go talk to some of these guests before, because some of them are older and they're going to leave, and like you got to make the, because they're just talking and they're not thinking about that. Why would they think about that? But you're thinking about, the planner's thinking about that, and then like, half your guests are going to leave in half an hour, and you got to go talk to them.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think they do, but yeah, it's your day. You do what you want anyway.
I love it. If people want to learn more about you and your services and all that kind of stuff and your process, where would you have them check out?
Oh, well, sugarandspiceevents.com. That's my website. Sugar and Spice Events Seattle is my Instagram. I am really trying to get better about putting myself out there and doing stories and putting more content out there. It is, I keep my schedule on pen and paper. So anyway, social media it's a challenge for me, but I'm getting there. But definitely Instagram, my website. I'm working on getting my blog back up and running. I'm really excited to share with people why they should rent versus buy. That's going to be something I'm going to start looking into. So.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
We had that, because we got some of ours from our florist, and then but we didn't buy anything. We just rented from.
I know. Because then.
Yeah.
It's just, you're never going to recoup your costs.
Like, I feel like even because we got married at Salty's, I feel like even Salty's was like, hey, we have some like leftover ones from the wedding last weekend. And like, I was like, can you send me the photo? And we're like, Dorothy and I were like, done, like totally done. And like, they probably made, a killing off it, but we didn't have to buy it and get rid of it and sell it and haul it around. And I don't know.
makes life easier.
I want to thank you so much for coming in today, between appointments and really trying to make this work. And
Thank you for having me. It's nice to, anyway, it's fun. Thank you.
It's fantastic. If you are like Mikaela and you want to, come on the podcast and share your story, I have a great link set up. It's www.bestmadevideos.com/podcast guest. And that's a really easy questionnaire that kind of gets you in the system and we can figure out what's going on and your willingness on the thing. And now I've gotten all these other wonderful vendors, I think, that are going to be coming up here in a couple of weeks, people that I've also been bugging for a long time, but now we're like year and a half now of doing this. So I think people realize it's like a thing now. So it's not going to go away.
I know I've made it.
You made it. It's good. No, I'm glad. It is good. This is good. Thank you again. This has been another episode of Get to Know Your Wedding Pro. Check back next week for another wedding vendor interview. Thanks so much.